Greetings from Imagine Studios. Well, I just wanted to give you some insight into how this was done. So I'm using an app called Pixlr. Actually, I use 3 different apps, but at this stage, I'm going to use Pixlr, which has some features. Okay, this is where I started. Now, what I want to do is blur that area slightly. Let me move this little bubble up there. Okay. Right, now I'm going to go back with a pen. I'm using a rubber-tipped stylus for this. And I'm going to copy the color shading of different parts of the eye. We'll start with this here. And I will slowly try to draw the iris back in. Okay, I'm shaping it with an erase function at the same time. Right now, erase. Okay. And draw. I know it looks a little spooky, but photography can, making alterations to something, you can do anything, and sometimes it just doesn't feel normal, so that's somewhat what I want there as a background. Anyway, now I'm going to choose a slightly lighter shade and lighten up the edges just a bit. Now, with the bottom eyelid, cuts off the bottom part of the iris. That needs to be returned or restored. That can be tough when dealing with light against dark backgrounds. There we go, see that there? I'll take some of that back off. Well, anyway, that's it for the eye portion. Now, I can blur out to a degree. I can blur some of this line out. And the blur tool does a good job because it preserves the background color and shading. But it only goes so far, and right now I'll take the pen and fill in some of the color borrowing from a background color here. I'll try to shade that line back in. Manually or digitally with my digits, my fingers. So that's how that's done. And of course, you can see that there's some remainder. You can see where it's still there in the background, that line, but we can blur some of it again to a degree with the blur tool. Okay, that's something like how that's done. And same goes for the rest of the spots here. Get rid of them that way. As far as color goes, I have to be very careful with pastel. And you had a blue dress. You have to be very careful because colorization will knock out some of the detail in the background. So you're going to be careful to preserve the detail while you're coloring. And that's on full, and I want to feather it as well as dry it in at the same time. So I have to be careful about not disturbing the details, especially at the edges of the color. When I put in some color like that, I can blur it or darken it. Let's go and darken some of the edges here, or one edge, whichever way the lighting is coming from. You want to darken the edge that's on the side of the lighting, on the same side as the lighting, because in this case it's the right side, because part of this pleat on the dress is casting a shadow here, but not here. You can't see that. So I'll take that back out. Okay, so you want that shadow to be on the same side that the light is coming from, in this case, because the dress is pleated and the pleat casts that shadow. So that has to be taken into consideration. You can see that now. It looks fairly natural there. These are just examples, though. But as far as the legs went here, there really wasn't much information in the background to go by. There was some, but here I can lighten up. Let's do a really intense lightening on that this area. Okay, now the leg is in the center, but I also lighten the background there in these three stripes I just drew. So obviously I want to remove what I think is background, or what I think is background, and preserve what I think is leg. And that can come out very different. So that needs to be done pretty carefully. What else? Now, the eyes on the dog are in shadow, and I can lighten those slightly. But yeah, this is what I came up against before. So I'd have to draw the pupils back in, or darken them anyway. Darken the pupils. And color for Nancy. Yeah, I did choose a brownish, yellowish, brownish, reddish kind of color. I didn't know. I was only guessing at the color scheme of the dog. So there we go. That's full intensity. Bring it down to a quarter, or about an eighth intensity. And drawing various shades of brown. And I guess it was mainly brown and black and white. And the leg here, I was able to do this and darken it somewhat on the shadow side. Darken. Okay, like that. So anyway, now this part over here where there is a crease in the photo, I'll try to draw that here for you. There's a crease here. And the light is, the fold in the paper is, it's like a mountain ridge. On the upside, we have light hitting the paper, and the downside is shadow. That was really tough to remove, so what I did was I just went in and darkened layer upon layer of darkening, like this over here. I don't know if you can see that changing. But I darkened that overall, and then I darkened the more specific areas even further. But in some cases I had to actually put color back in rather than just darken up these areas here. So I'm darkening right now. But I can see that it leaves a funny tinge to it, so I'm going to go back in and borrow a background color. I do that by tapping this and this. And we'll put some of the color back in from the background. That's just a guess from the background color, but you can see it. It looks natural, so. Okay, coloring this back in. Okay, so that's how that was done. And the leaves, I had to really kind of redraw the leaves, and I did that with color alone rather than outlining. There's a certain method in art they use. Who used that? Let's see. Monet, I think it was. He used coloring. What was it he did? The process he used was called, what was it? Hang on a sec. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, Impressionism. So what he did was he made his seams, corners, edges with light and shadow rather than drawing a direct edge like I could draw in a leaf here. Let me choose a dark green. Let's say I could draw a leaf over here. My pen's not working. Okay. In other words, yeah, it could be done this way and then filled in. I don't know, it's kind of hard to describe, but I didn't do it that way. Anyway, so we'll just leave well enough alone here before I get too far off track. So now at this point, what I want to do is save what I've just done. I don't want to leave this app and close it out without saving, so I'm going to push done. And that should have saved it for me. Let's check. Yep, there it is in the Pixlr folder. Now I can pick up where I left off, but there are times when you make an adjustment. Let's say adjustment. Oh, this little bugger gets in the way. All right, and then you want to take it out, let's say. You have to remember to remove your adjustment before you hit save or done, in this case, or you can keep it. So you can have two different versions of a photo that you're working on, or three. You can make multiple saves. So that's just a sample of how that was done.